Esports World Cup has come and gone. 16 teams fought it out for glory, but mostly for a nice paycheck. There are a lot of matches, and most people don't have time to watch them all, so today I'm going to go over some of the best matches to give you a good enough summary of the Esports World Cup. Throughout this tournament, hero bans were introduced, which allowed each team to ban one hero per team as well as one per role every game. This allowed teams to have more diversity in the comps they played, as well as adding a layer of strategy to the game that we haven't seen before. I really liked this system, and I hope to see it implemented in OWCS in the future. Starting out with the group stage, the teams were divided into 4 groups of 4 teams, where 3 teams from each group would move on to a playoffs round. In Group A, Crazy Raccoon, Toronto Ultra, GG Pips, and Rock Esports battled it out. The group went about as you'd expect, with Crazy Raccoon beating everyone else down with minimal effort. The only somewhat close match was the match between GG Peps and Toronto Ultra for second place. However, aside from Shambali, Toronto had the upper hand, getting them second in the group. Rock Esports, the only rep from the South America region, was unfortunately just outclassed and got 0-9 swept, with Crazy Raccoon, Toronto Ultra, and GG Peps making it out of Group A. Group B had Team Falcons, Makers, LGDOA, and Twisted Minds fighting it out. Although you'd think this group would be pretty predictable, some very strange games led to an unexpected result. It was very clear that LGD were not locked in, and some very sloppy plays led to them getting 3-0'd by Twisted Minds on the first day. Makers also got 3-0'd by both Falcons and LGD, and Falcons beat up Twisted 3-1. It seemed like this group was decided, but LGD finally woke up, and gave us one of the best matches of the tournament with their 3-1 upset over Team Falcons. Ilios looked like Falcons would dominate, but on Midtown, Falcons just couldn't break through LGD's point B defense, with Leave and Shy going absolutely crazy. This gave LGD an opportunity to take the map, and an early kill onto Smurf on point A, with a large time bank on point B, they were able to cap with about 2 minutes remaining. With the score tied up 1-1, they moved on to Runasapi, and LGD got an early lead on the back of Gushway's Malga. It looked like maybe Falcons were gonna have a comeback, but the Pharah Ashe combo of Leave and Shy were just too much to handle, and LGD took Map 3. Map 4 was on Circa Royale, and the Widow duel between Proper and Shy was super fun to watch, but Shy seemed to have the edge throughout most of the map. Falcons struggled on their offense, barely completing point A, and ultimately not completing the map, giving LGD a win condition. They pushed through the map, and with 1 minute to go, Shy finds a crucial kill onto Proper, and with Hanbin, he had a C9 mid-flux. LGD took down the favorites in the group. However, since this moved around the standings, it caused a 3-way tie for first in the group. Twisted Minds barely beat Makers 3-2, in a series that really shouldn't have been that close, but apparently, that doesn't end up mattering. Due to the very strange tiebreaker rules at Esports World Cup, the matches against Makers didn't count in the tiebreaker, and even though Falcons had the best map record, being +3, Twisted Minds were actually given the first seed despite only having a +2 record, and also losing to Falcons earlier. This wouldn't be the only time that this very strange rules at Esports World Cup would cause some problems, but either way, Makers got eliminated, and Twisted Minds were given a free first round bye for literally no reason. Luckily, it didn't really end up mattering, as you'll see later on. In Group C, Zeta Division, ENCE, M80, and Bleed Esports battled it out. Zeta were the obvious favorites, and they ended up going undefeated in their group, but a map loss to M80 and Bleed made this group quite competitive. ENCE securely beat M80 and Bleed, taking the second seed, and the match to determine the final survivor of this group was between Bleed and M80. On Ilios, Bleed took it in a close 2-0, and it looked like they might actually take the series, but M80 locked in, and with some great plays from the whole team, especially Tree, M80 came back and won the series 3-1. Bleed got eliminated, but they showed a lot of fight, and are definitely not a team to ignore. Group D was a complete mess. Fnatic, Virtus.pro, NTMR, and SSG fought in the wildest group in the tournament. The first day seemed pretty normal, with SSG beating NTMR 3-1, but things flipped on their heads with an upset from Virtus.pro onto Fnatic. Going into this, Fnatic was seen as the strongest in Group D, with maybe SSG being able to take them down, but no one expected Virtus.pro, the number 5 seed in EU, to take them down. It's not like the series was even that close either. Virtus were in control for most of the series. Hollywood slipped out of their hands, but the rest of the series was Virtus.pro's to win. After that, Virtus.pro performed another upset by beating SSG, the number 1 EU team, in another 3-1 victory. This match was actually pretty close, with some great plays from the whole team, especially Shockwave, helped lead Virtus.pro to a 2-0 group stage and a potential number 1 seed. The final match of Day 1 was Fnatic vs NTMR, which people expected to be an easy win for Fnatic, but oh how wrong they were. The match started out as you'd expect, with Fnatic taking map 1, but NTMR did win a round. On map 2, Fnatic absolutely dominated, full holding NTMR on Shambali, and it looked like this would be a quick 3-0 sweep, but NTMR wasn't quite done yet. On Midtown, they locked in, and the combo of infected Sigma and the crazy poke pressure from NTMR was just way too much for Fnatic to handle, and NTMR ended up full holding them. On map 4, NTMR took over, getting a dominant 3-0 win on Suravasa. Infected got a ton done on the Winston, and Donghack's ball just couldn't keep up. With a C9 on the first point, the momentum was in NTMR's favor, and they swept the rest of Suravasa. Moving into map 5, everyone was excited for a potential reverse sweep, and Runasapi definitely delivered. NTMR got an early lead, taking 71 meters and the checkpoint in the first few minutes. Fnatic tried to come back, getting checkpoint, but NTMR held on to the lead and completed the reverse sweep, taking down a Korean team. Going into Day 2, it seemed like Fnatic were going to be eliminated, already being down 0-2 and with a match against SSG coming up. All hope seemed lost, but something unexpected happened. SSG and Fnatic went at it in an unexpected map 5 banger. Starting out on Ilios, Fnatic surprised everyone by taking it in a pretty dominant 2-0 fashion. The double flex support look as well as the Pharah from Checkmate were just too much for SSG to handle, and Donghack's Wrecking Ball was quite good. They won this map, and Fnatic started out 1-0 in the series. On Circuit Royale, both teams completed the map. However, SSG stopped them in their tracks in extra rounds, and they easily capped, taking the map. New Junk City was map 3, and it was a really entertaining one. The teams had a Maga mirror, and both teams were very evenly matched, going all the way to a 5th flashpoint. In a narrow clutch, SSG managed to take the map 3-2 and ended up on match point, but Fnatic were not going to go down without a fight. They went over to Colosseo, and the main difference maker was Hottie on Diva versus Donghack on Doomfist. The map was close, but some great plays from Donghack and Checkmate helped push Fnatic over the edge, and they went over to a map 5. As they moved on to the final map, Eichenwald, this map was extremely close. On offense, SSG ran Hottie on Rhine versus Donghack on Doomfist yet again. SSG weren't able to finish the map, but a strong push into 3rd gave them a win condition. Fnatic's offense was close, with them capping point B in overtime, but a final overtime push and some great kills from Checkmate and Inzuyaki put a lot of pressure on SSG, and they were unable to touch the 3rd point. Because of this win, this put Group D in a very weird position. If NTMR lost to Virtus, there would be a 3-way tie in the group. NTMR just had to beat Virtus in order to advance, but that was a tall ask, with Virtus.pro seeming like the strongest team in the group. Map 1 was Ilios, with NTMR taking a surprising lead and winning it 2-0. On Shambali, Virtus were stopped on point B, and NTMR were able to clutch up, with a great barrage from Zera, and they were able to take another 2-0 lead in the series. However, Virtus.pro locked in, not being about to lose to NTMR. They took Suravasa in a rather dominant fashion, with Shockwave and Sana going crazy the whole map. On Hollywoods, both teams full capped, and in extra rounds, Virtus only got 40.2% of the point, and the win condition was set up for NTMR. However, Rajaro's Ramatra was just too much for them to handle, and Virtus.pro tied it up 2-2, bringing us to yet another map 5. The teams went over to Runasapi, and NTMR took the early lead. They capped the checkpoint in under 3 minutes, but some great shots from Shockwave yet again helped Virtus push back, capping the checkpoint themselves as well as taking a commanding lead. They won another 2 fights, continuing to push the bot over 140 meters, and NTMR could see the reverse sweep beginning to come to fruition. NTMR won a few fights, finally getting the bot over to gain some ground, and they pushed it to 100 meters in overtime. However, a huge 2k from Zera really gave them hope. But Shockwave sent a bob straight into the backline that stopped them in their tracks, and Virtus completed the reverse sweep, securing the number 1 seed in the group and setting the whole group into a 3-way tie. This left SSG, Fnatic, and NTMR all tied up, with SSG at a -1 score, and NTMR and Fnatic tied at a -2 score. Normally, this would give Space Station Gaming the 2nd slot and NTMR the number 3 slot, because they won the head-to-head matchup. But due to the Esports World Cup's really weird and honestly pretty awful tiebreaker system, Fnatic actually ended up moving on and NTMR were eliminated, despite beating Fnatic earlier. I feel super bad for the NTMR players. They definitely should have moved on, but there's nothing they can do about it, so they got eliminated early. It's disappointing to see, but hopefully we'll have a better format next time. Now that the group stage was over, we said goodbye to Rock Esports, Makers, Bleed, and NTMR. The remaining 12 teams moved on to a single elimination bracket, which is another very strange format choice. I understand that they were pressed for time, but a double elimination bracket is always way better, and the single elim bracket caused a certain team to not make finals that probably should have. Hopefully we get a double elimination bracket next time. Either way, the top seeds got a first round bye, and the second and third teams from each group battled it out. The first round matches were ENCE vs Fnatic, Team Falcons vs M80, SSG vs GG Peps, and Toronto Ultra vs LGDOA. Team Falcons easily 4-0 stomped M80, and SSG also cleaned up GG Peps in another 4-0, eliminating both M80 and GG Peps from the tournament. The other two matches were a lot more interesting. Although it was a 4-1, the match between LGD and Toronto Ultra was actually pretty good, with a lot of banter from Sugar Free and some pretty great plays on both sides, but Toronto Ultra ended up on top, eliminating LGD from the competition. It was really nice to get to see the Chinese players again, and I hope they'll be able to compete in OWCS soon. The final match of round 1 was ENCE vs Fnatic, and it was definitely the best one of the round. Starting out on Lijiang Tower, Fnatic seemed to be in control on round 1, especially with an Ajax from Rack Attack, but a massive cage from Vistola and the cleanup from Fevster on the Pharah helped them secure round 1, but they just couldn't hold on. Some great plays from Donghack on the ball and Knife on the Tracer helped secure round 2. Round 3 went back and forth, but another cage plus EMP from Maimone helped ENCE secure map 1. Saravasa started off with ENCE winning the first point, but on point 2, Izayaki opened up the point with a headshot kunai onto Kevster. Knife stuck multiple pulse bombs onto Rack Attack, and Fnatic managed to take point 2, and the momentum shifted in their favor. Knife continued to go crazy, and Fnatic ended up taking Saravasa 3-1. Circuit Royale was map 3, and it seemed to be going great for Fnatic, who quickly capped point A and B and had 4-minute time bank moving into point C. But Mirror, who got subbed in to play support, had other plans and went crazy on the Olari. ENCE stopped them from capping, and once the momentum was shifted, ENCE steamrolled them on their attack and won map 3. Coliseum was also a crazy map. ENCE banned Wrecking Ball, so Donghack had to roll out on Doomfist into Vistola's Diva. Fnatic actually had the lead for a majority of the map, but in the last 15 seconds, Fnatic don't touch, and ENCE steal the lead with a crazy C9 and ended up winning the map, making the score 3-1 in the favor of ENCE. On Eichenwald, Kevster starts the map off with a Widow grapple shot on Izayaki, and ENCE get a free cap on point A. ENCE had 5 minutes and 40 going into point B, and despite the large time bank, completion of point B, ENCE were not able to complete point C, even with 3 minutes remaining going into it, giving Fnatic a win condition. On Fnatic's attack, they also completed A very quickly, with some great sticky bombs from Checkmate's Echo. It looked like B would be capped very quickly, but some great stalls from Maimone and Rack Attack helped them hold on to waste more time on B. Fnatic capped B very shortly after, but they only had 3 minutes to pass ENCE's distance on point C. Knife swapped over to the Venture, and Fnatic took Eichenwald, changing the score to 3-2. Map 6 was Midtown, and both teams were feeling the pressure. Mirror got subbed back in to play support, and ENCE attacked first. Their attack was sloppy, but with a nice stagger on Vistola, ENCE got held up on point B, and Fnatic were given a chance to extend the series to a map 7. Fnatic came out on a Rhine comp on their attack, and they capped A pretty quickly. Fnatic had 4 minutes and 40 seconds to cap B and extend the series. However, on point B, the Reinhardt got very little done, and Donghack was forced to swap. But the swap came a little bit too late, with only 2 minutes left. Fnatic were scrambling to try to cap, but Kai locked in, hitting multiple shots with the help of Vistola's Maga. As overtime begins, Fnatic are desperate to win the map, but Kai sent a bomb their way, and he sat uncontested on the high ground, eliminating Fnatic after they got wiped, and ENCE secured the series 4-2. After the first round, we said goodbye to GG Peps, LGDOA, M80, and Fnatic. In the next round, we would see Crazy Raccoons vs ENCE, Team Falcons vs Virtus.pro, Zeta Division vs SSG, and Toronto Ultra vs Twisted Minds. Unfortunately, despite their great performance against Fnatic, ENCE stood no chance against Crazy Raccoons and got easily beaten 4-0. Team Falcons were clearly quite better than Virtus.pro, although they did surprise everyone by taking a win on Midtown and didn't get swept by Falcons. Toronto and Twisted Minds faced off, but it was clear that Twisted just couldn't keep up with Toronto. Vigilante and Quartz tried their best to carry UB, but Toronto were just way too good for them and easily swept them 4-0, eliminating them early. The best match of this round, though, was Zeta Division vs SSG in a surprising 6-map banger. The series went back and forth, but it was clear that Zeta were in control for a majority of the series. Ilios started out close, but Zeta took the final round in a dominant 99-0 fashion, and Circuit Royale ended up going in the favor of SSG on the back of Backbone's incredible Mei. Suravasa went to Zeta Division, who seemed to have an edge thanks to their aggressive double flex support poke comp. I mean, how do you compete with Finn and Violet in the backline? Hottie started out on Rhine, but ended up getting shut down and he had to swap to D.Va. SSG took a round, but ultimately Zeta took the map in a 3-1 win. On Runasapi, Zeta took an early lead, but SSG got a nice fight win off the back of a great cage fight from Hottie, and they were able to snowball it to a nice early lead. Zeta just couldn't come back, and SSG tied up the series 2-2. Hollywood was map 5, and Zeta had a dominant attack, with them stomping through A and B and had a massive 5-minute time bank going into point C. SSG held C for a while, but the time bank was just too large, and Zeta capped with a minute 30 left. Unfortunately, SSG didn't even make it to point C, and Zeta stopped them before they could even finish B. Map 6 was Lijiang Tower, where SSG took round 1 off the back of Sparker's Ashe play. Funny Astro's Lucio was great, and SSG looked like they could push this to map 7. Unfortunately, round 2 was just not close, as Zeta destroyed SSG 100-0. Things were looking bleak, and Zeta wanted to close out the series now. The third round was extremely close, going 99-99, but Zeta Division ended up clutching up and won the series 4-2, eliminating SSG and eliminating all of Europe in that one round. In round 2, Twisted Minds, SSG, Virtus.pro, and ENCE were all eliminated, which also meant that all of EU was now out, and Toronto Ultra were the only non-Korean team left. The semi-final matches were between Crazy Raccoon and Team Falcons, and Toronto Ultra versus Zeta Division. The match between Zeta and Toronto was actually insane, and it was so long and wild that I'm actually going to make a whole video about just this match alone, so keep an eye out for that. The match between Crazy Raccoon and Team Falcons was not nearly as crazy, but it was still very good. For starters, it was very sad to see that one of these teams were going to get eliminated early before the finals, but unfortunately, that's just one of the issues with a single elimination bracket. Crazy Raccoon were clearly the better team throughout the series, and with the combo of Heesang and Lip, as well as the crazy backline of Chorong and Shu, the series started out in Crazy Raccoon's favor. Busan was map 1, which Crazy Raccoon won in a nice clean 2-0. Runasapi actually went to Team Falcons in a very close fashion, with Proper and Stalker both going crazy. Suravasa ended up going the distance, going all the way to round 5, but Crazy Raccoon managed to take the map, and they continued the momentum onto Shambali, which they won in a dominant fashion, increasing their lead even further. Eichenwald was Team Falcon's last stand, but their attack was less than ideal, with Crazy Raccoon stopping them before they could even cap point B. On Crazy Raccoon's offense, they steamrolled through point A, having a nearly 6-minute time bank to get to the end of B and eliminate Team Falcons. Falcon held for a little while, but there was only so much they could do against that crazy time bank, and Crazy Raccoon ended up winning 4-1, moving on to the finals against the Toronto Ultra, who beat Zeta Division in a crazy map 7 banger. I'll talk about it in more detail in an upcoming video on that match, but the main reason for the Zeta Division loss can be narrowed down to one very expensive Ajax. Unfortunately, since Team Falcons got eliminated in the semis, the finals wasn't really that close. Crazy Raccoon showed Toronto who's boss by running their pockets for almost the entire series. However, the match was actually not a 4-0, much to the surprise of everyone, including the Toronto players themselves. Runasapi was actually won by Toronto in a very close fashion, with some great plays from the whole team, that gave people hope that Crazy Raccoon could be beaten. But the Raccoons were not worried at all, and crushed them on Map 5, winning 4-1, and winning the entire Esports World Cup with only 2 maps lost throughout the whole tournament. Crazy Raccoon has shown that they just might be the best team in Overwatch history, now having won OWCS Asia, Dalek's DreamHack, and now the Esports World Cup. Lip is making a serious GOAT case, and the redemption arcs for Junbin, Max, and Heesang have been incredible to watch. Shu and Chorong are arguably the best backline ever, and Coach Moonis is redeeming himself for the mistake that was the Flatank. No other team, not even Falcons, can stand up to them, and I'm excited to see them compete in OWCS Korea and see them at Stockholm. I'm also pleasantly surprised by the Toronto Ultras' performance. The NA's terrible allegations are dead in the water, and the Defiant have finally beat the mid-curse. Hopefully they can keep it up for OWCS Stage 3. Thank you all so much for watching my good enough summary of the Overwatch Esports World Cup. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel for more Overwatch Esports content. It would really mean a lot to me. Keep an eye out for my upcoming video on the Zeta Division vs Toronto Ultra match, coming out soon. Thank you all so much for watching.